Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Knit Front and Back podcast. My name is George, I'm a knitter and I'm based here in Berlin in Germany, and I thought I would give you a little update on everything I've been up to recently and the things I have been knitting. So come on in, settle down, get yourself a nice cup of tea and let's have a little chat. I thought I would check back in as it's the beginning of February now. It's been a while. I don't know about you, but I feel sort of as if it was the end of December and then I blinked and then January was just gone. Don't quite know how that happened, that midwinter feeling. But I have been busily knitting away, so I do have some things to show for my time. So let's start off with, in fact, what I'm wearing. The first finished object I have to show you. This is a No Frills Sweater by Petite Knit. It is just a classic top-down raglan. This one is, I'll show you, a little bit cropped, so kind of short, good with high-waisted jeans, kind of a little bit of space in there. Super simple. I decided to make this because I've been doing some more complicated projects. I got to the point I was like, I just need something brainless. Just need to not think for a little bit, and so this was perfect. It ended up being a super quick knit. I finished it in I think 2.5 weeks. I did the size medium. This pattern has a reasonable range of sizes, and I think you could easily size it up or down. I knit it almost entirely to pattern. The only thing I changed was that I did twisted rib for the ribbing instead of regular rib. I just like a twisted rib, I like the way it looks. I made the body, I think, 1 inch longer than it's specified in the pattern, and the sleeves, I think I put an extra 3/4 of an inch on there because I like a longer sleeve. But yeah, super simple. I can absolutely see why this pattern is so popular. Easy to follow, top-down raglan for all occasions. And the yarn I used for this is inspired by the Creya Bear Knits podcast. She was talking about Wooly Knit, yes, who are a British wool company that sell cones. And I'd never tried working from a cone before. They only ship to Britain as far as I know, but I was visiting family in Britain recently, so I ordered some yarn and got it delivered there. Picked it up while I was visiting, and this is the Wooly Knits merino cone in, I have some leftovers, let me show you. So you have to wind it off the cone, or I suppose you could knit off a cone if you really wanted to, but as this is a fingering weight, it's pretty thin. I held it double as the pattern is a DK weight sweater, so I just got the cone wound off 2 large cakes and held them together and used that to knit, and that worked out just fine. And yeah, this is the Tierra Beige Nepped Merino. So it's, if you can see, it's 2 strands of one white and one sort of biscuit colour applied together with these occasional little kind of chocolate brown, black neps, and I think the effect is rather nice. It reminds me of Stracciatella ice cream. Who doesn't love chocolate chip ice cream? So I think the best thing about working with this yarn is how affordable it is. It was, I think, $20 for a cone, which is 500 grams. $20 for enough merino wool to make a whole sweater. Bargain. So yeah, really enjoyed that. The fabric ended up a little bit different from what I was expecting. I did swatch. Confession time, I make tiny swatches, like they're usually about yay big. But the swatch was quite sort of floppy and loose, so I was expecting it a bit more drapey. But by the time I'd finished knitting this whole garment and blocked it, it's quite firm fabric. It's quite robust. But I don't dislike that. It feels a bit like a, like a rustic fisherman's pullover. and it feels also, it's like thick and it's warm and it feels like it's gonna last forever. I've been wearing this constantly since I made it because it's been cold here, and it doesn't seem to be bobbling or wearing at all. It seems really quite hearty. So yeah, while that's not what I was expecting, I do like it. And I believe the pattern recommends a 4mm needle, and I think I used a 3.5mm needle because I tend to knit kind of loosely, and that was what let me get a gauge with the yarn held double. The other nice thing, I wasn't quite sure if 500 grams of yarn was going to be enough for a whole sweater, given that I was holding it double, but it turned out to be more than enough. In fact, I used about 450 grams. I've got about 50 grams left, so I could easily have made a larger size or made it less cropped. So there's, more than enough yarn on one cone to make a whole sweater if you're doing a sort of medium to large size, which is great. So yes, very simple sweater, very happy with it, would recommend the pattern, would recommend the yarn, but like I say, it's not, when you think of like maybe a sort of merino, it's not super soft, it's not itchy, but it's more hearty. I've been quite enjoying that. You know, if I ever get called out to go and live in a lighthouse somewhere, I'd quite like to man a lighthouse. That'd be quite good. Just living in the middle of the nowhere in my lighthouse with a book. Anyway, I will be ready for that challenge because this is highly appropriate for that. So yeah, this is the No Frills Sweater by Petite Knit. Very pleased with that, all in all. Very nice. So that was the first finished object I have to show you. And then, as well as that, I have, perhaps unsurprisingly, more socks. Because I told myself I was going to take a break from knitting socks for a little while. I knit loads of socks for my family just before Christmas. And in January I had all these big projects to do, and I was like, I'll just take a break from socks for a little while. But that was a lie. I just love socks. So I have something else, which is these guys, which are like cozy DK weight socks. Chunky monkeys for wearing around the house, or ideally wearing in bed. Recently I've started not having the heating on at night. I found I sleep a lot better when my room is a bit cold, which surprised me, but like it really makes a difference. Though obviously that means, you know, cold feet, so wrap up in some extra layers and get an extra blanket and get some cozy socks and turn the heating off at night. Finding I'm sleeping a lot better. So, excuse to make more thick socks, I guess. But I had this yarn, I in fact bought this yarn to make socks for my sister-in-law for Christmas, and I did, and I whipped her up a pair of socks. I'll put a photo here so you can see, but they're pretty similar to these ones. And when I had this yarn last on the podcast, I was saying I wasn't quite sure about whether I liked the colourway, but I knit up some for my sister-in-law, and I decided actually I love the colourway. I think it's great. So this is the Regia 6-ply, which you can find everywhere in Germany, just sort of their standard DK sock yarn, and it's a wool nylon blend, so it's quite robust. And this is the colourway Morning Breeze, and I think it's actually really pretty. I did, when I was making the socks for my sister-in-law, for hers, I always do 2 at a time, so for hers I was pulling from the inside and the outside at the same time, so the pattern is reversed on each sock, so they're opposite, which I think is quite pretty. These ones I didn't bother doing that, so the pattern is just slightly offset, if that makes sense. Like you can see like this bit where the blue turns into the grey is just at a slightly different point in the socks. Doesn't bother me overly. I suppose I could have wound off the yarn to get 2 identical socks, but say these are just really for wearing in bed, so I'm not too worried about it. But this was, well, the ones I made for my sister-in-law were the first time I've tried DK weight socks. I've done some sort of worsted slipper socks before, but I haven't done DK socks before. And I can see why everyone loves them. They really are great. So they're super quick to make. I think I made these guys in 3, maybe 4 days, as opposed to the sort of week to 10 days it normally takes me to do fingering socks. And it's very satisfying. They were very quick. I did these as I typically do, toe up, magic loop, 2 at a time. I got the stitch counts from the Crazy Sock Lady, has a free DK weight socks pattern, though she does hers cuff down and with a heel flap and gusset. But I just borrowed her stitch counts, which is, this is a 40 stitch sock. For reference, when I'm using fingering weight, I normally do a 60 stitch sock for myself. So 40 stitches in DK, and I cast on 12 using Judy's Magic Cast On, and then you just increase as normal and off you go. These, I did do a shadow wrap heel on these because it's one of those heels where it's like, it's quick, it's easy, you don't have to look at a pattern, you just kind of do it without thinking, which is ideal. Though I did notice the heels, it's not the neatest job in the world. I did, like, it's a little bit loose here, so I think I'm gonna have to be a bit more careful when I do heels. When I do a shadow wrap heel, to be honest, I don't tighten any of the stitches. I knit pretty loosely anyway, and I just sort of whip through the heels without really thinking. So yeah, if I'm gonna do some more careful socks, I should be more careful with my heels. Do you find this, that sometimes you have projects that you're like, oh, I want everything to be like really neat and as good as it can be and very lovely, and other times you're just like, yeah, just throw it out. These were like a very casual project for me. But yes, I just wanted some cozy socks myself, and so here we are. Oh, the other thing I did, which I haven't done before, is I had a bunch of yarn left over, so I did an extra long cuff, thinking I could either pull them up all the way up if it's really cold, or just fold the cuff down like this for most of the time. Thought that might be nice. So one of the other good things actually about this yarn comes in 150 gram balls, so like really quite substantial. So I wasn't sure how much I would need, but once I made the socks for my sister-in-law, that only used, I think, 65 grams, so I had more than enough left for a second pair. So, handy. And this has definitely made me want to do more DK socks. Like I say, they're quick and relaxing and quite fun, and so I think I might try, what I haven't tried yet is getting a skein of fingering weight sock yarn and then holding that double and using that to make socks. I hadn't tried that before because I didn't think I would have enough in one skein, but now I think 100 grams is enough to hold it double and make a pair of socks for my size. Maybe. So I'm gonna try that out. I have this skein of, where is it? There we go. This hedgehog fibres sock in the colourway Shiver, which I think is rather lovely. But looking on Ravelry, when I've seen people knit it up, when you hold it single, it's quite, the sort of pops of pink and blue are quite slim, if that makes sense. But I saw one person on Ravelry had done DK socks using this colourway. It held a double and it made the pops of colour look really kind of chunky and inviting, and I thought it was rather lovely. So I think this might become more DK socks. So yeah, looking forward to trying more of those. I think that will be fun. And then, yeah, like I say, I made a whole bunch of socks for my family for Christmas, which I don't have now because I gave them to my family, but I will quickly just talk you through what I did make. The first one was for my mum, which I showed you as a work in progress last time. It is the heel toe do-si-do pattern by Crazy Sock Lady. It was done using West Yorkshire Spinners' signature 4-ply, which is their like standard sock yarn, which I really quite like, in the colourway Pink Flamingo. I'll put up a picture here. This is a very nice pattern, very nice yarn to work with. Really liked it, and my mum is delighted. My mum really enjoys her socks and has been asking me for more, so it's a good sign, I guess. But yes, I'll have to make more socks for my mum. The second pair I went, my brother requested some plain coloured hiking socks. I don't really know anything about hiking, but I thought sort of socks with some ribbing maybe to kind of keep them in place while you walk. So I used the Cascade fingering yarn for him in this nice bright red colour. And I wasn't overly happy. I'll put up a picture, but yes, these socks, I was not overly happy with them. I mean, they were fine, but the Cascade yarn felt really nice, like it's merino nylon, and it felt really soft. But when I tried to work with it, it was somehow a bit slippery. It kept sort of moving around, and it meant the stitches weren't terribly even after I blocked them. It all felt a bit wobbly and unpleasing for whatever reason. So, I mean, the socks came out, they were the right size, they were as requested, bright red hiking socks, but I wasn't particularly happy with them. So I don't think I will use that yarn again. Just didn't really vibe with it, if you will. And then finally, for my aunt, I made these, which were these sort of Christmassy socks, again using the West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply in the Robin colourway, with contrasting heels, toes and cuffs, which was, what was the contrast yarn? Yes, it was the Herzfassen Deutsche Sockenwolle, which is lovely. Had a little bit of that left over, so I used that for the contrast bits. And these socks, I was delighted how they came out. I had just sort of thrown them together as a last minute, oh, I've got a bit of this yarn, I'll churn out some quick socks on a 9-inch circular. And they came out looking really nice. And they seem really pleasing. So I was very happy with those. And something I noticed with both the ones I made for my mum and for my aunt is that, like I say, I normally do 2 at a time, but these pairs I decided to make on 1 at a time on 9-inch circulars, mostly so I could carry them around with me and, you know, work on them while I was out and about. It's a little bit of a faff, I find. I have gone out before with a sort of project bag hanging off my wrist and doing 2 at a time magic loop while you're walking. It's possible to do, but it's a bit of a faff. Whereas a 9-inch circular is very convenient for taking out and about. Though I have found that the size of the finished sock can vary a little bit when you're doing a 9-inch circular. For example, I finished the first sock for my mum's pair, and I got a third of the way through the second one, and my thumbs were starting to hurt a bit. I find it, if I use a 9-inch circular for more than a couple of days, it gets a little bit sore. So I switched over to magic loop to finish off that sock. And I do have a slightly different gauge on that. I do have slightly looser stitches on magic loop than I do on 9-inch circular. So the second sock for my mum came out a little bit of a different size, and the same with the ones for my aunt, that I made them over however many months of just having a a little ball of yarn and a 9-inch circular sat around that I would just grab at some points, and so I did find again my size varied a little bit, and then one of those socks I was knitting it in the cinema or somewhere dark, and so I accidentally added a couple of stitches somewhere. So on both of them, like the stitch counts on one of each pair was slightly different, and the overall size difference was not huge, but maybe like half a centimetre between the two socks. And I was thinking like, ooh, am I going to have to rip these back? Am I have to go fix them? And then I discovered, no, it's totally fine. I just blocked them out. Just blocked both pairs, and they came out looking identical. And by the time they're on someone's feet, they're not going to notice. So this has given me a bit of confidence that actually if you have slight tension differences or you add a little stitch here and there, it doesn't matter, it'll be fine. Your socks do not have to be completely perfect as you're knitting them. All of that will come out when you block it, be totally fine. So that's good to know. So those are all the finished objects I have for you. Okay, so the light in here is going a bit, I don't know what it is. Every time I put my phone down to film, the sun is like, haha, now is my moment. The sun hasn't been out for, it seems like about 3 weeks here, and then suddenly it's like, haha, quick, in through the window, sun, sun, sun. And I'm like, thanks buddy, thanks for that. But okay, so we've been through the finished objects, and I'm gonna put in a little clip now showing you the bigger project I've been working on at the moment. My current big whip is my Saven jumper, so I'm gonna add in a little footage now so you can see the state of that. Okay, so I wanted to give you an update on my Saven jumper. This is the Saven pattern by Megan Babish, and it is lovely. And as you can see, I have finished the front and back panels and the 2 sleeves. So now I just need to seam everything up. And I have been putting that off, in truth, because I do not have a lot of experience with seaming. So what I've done is I've just pinned everything in place, so I know how it all fits together. Because this jumper has quite an interesting construction. It has both this kind of raglan increases and also a saddle shoulder. So you can see this shoulder panel fits between the front and back panels. So you get a cable running all the way up and down the sleeves, which is really nice. And pinning it together was, I think, a good shout because it allowed me to try it on. I was a bit worried that it might be, sleeves too long or something, but it's actually fine. It feels lovely, it fits well. I'm very happy. The only thing I'm a little unsure about is the very edge of the front panel comes to these quite high points, and it's a little bit, just a tiny bit too long. It fits better like this. You can see I've crossed over the front panel and the shoulder seam by about 1 centimetre. So what I am considering doing is just ripping back this front panel by just maybe 4 rows and then binding off. Because in truth, to be fair, I don't think this was a mistake in the pattern. I think I might have followed the pattern slightly wrong. Because there's a lot to think about when you start here working up. So you're just doing the cables like this, and then you start doing the decreases here and here while doing the cables. And I was sort of doing fine up until that point, up until you get to here and you bind off. So you're working from here, you're doing decreases going across, then you're doing decreases again here, you're doing decreases here, and then the cables and decreasing here. And the interiors, if you will, this is a different decrease rate to here. And my brain was really goo by this point. So I think I might have followed the instructions slightly wrong, and my front panel might be 0.5 centimetre or so too long. So yes, I'm trying to decide if I'm brave enough to get back into this and rip it back a little bit, and then Then I've just got to seam it up and add on the neckband. So yes, I'm this pattern is wow. Like I really loved the object and it was a really fun challenge, but it was like a very mentally intense experience for me. It's not something that I could do casually, but I'm really loving the way this is coming together so far. So yeah, I will get back to you once I'm brave enough to try seaming. Okay. So the other whip I have is just a little, again, I said I'm not going to make any more socks, and I am a massive liar, because my other whip is also socks. So I have this charmingly mismatched pair of socks. I don't know about you, but I love using up like every scrap of yarn I can. Like I find that satisfying somehow to take all the last pieces. And I generally find I need between 30 and 35 grams of yarn for one sock. So when you have 100 grams skein, you get your pair of socks, and you've got sort of 30-35 grams left. And if that's sort of tonal yarn or a sort of plain colour or speckled or something, I find it fairly easy to put that in a scrappy project or something. But self-striping yarns, I find sometimes a little bit difficult. Like they don't work so well in scrappy socks, they don't necessarily work well in scrappy shawls and that sort of thing. So I had 35 grams of the Pink Flamingo West Yorkshire spinners left over from my mum's socks, and I had 35 grams of, again, the West Yorkshire spinners signature. This colour is Sea Breeze. I also happened to have this left over, and I thought, well, I could do one sock of each type of yarn and just call them a pair. It's a little bit weird. And then I thought, I know, I'll wind off each set of yarn into a 10 and 25 grams, and then I'll make them with like a pink one with green heels, toes and cuffs, and a green one with pink heels, toes and cuffs. Pink and green, not necessarily a colour combination I would have opted for, but I had some leftover yarn and I wanted something to do with it, and it seemed like fun. So I can't decide. These might end up being hideously ugly as a sort of mismatched pair, but that's all right. It's been quite fun. So what I have been doing with these is using magic loop to cast on the toes and to do the ribbing, and then using a 9-inch circular to do the body of the sock. And I found that to be quite a good combination in that trying to cast trying to do at least a Judy's Magic cast on a 9-inch circular seems like a nightmare. That's very easy to do on magic loop, and ribbing is possible. I've done it on a 9-inch circular, but it's not super convenient. So I like using magic loop for that, whereas I really like having an option for just when you're in front of the TV or when you just want something mindless. A 9-inch circular where you can just go round and round and round and round and round and round and round really quickly. So yeah, these have flown by really fast actually. I was just having these as a sort of background project. It'll probably take a few months, and then in fact super quickly I've ended up with nearly complete socks. So this one is already on the ribbing. This one I've just finished the body and I need to switch to the ribbing. I'm going to do some ribbing, and then I'm going to do a true afterthought heel on both. So this green sock will get a pink heel and the pink sock will get a green heel, and those will probably be finished up quite soon. So yeah, how do we feel about mismatched socks? I feel like this is not really a done thing that I've seen among sock knitters, but I thought it might be fun, and like I said, I find it really satisfying to use up like all of the yarn. So yeah, I'm going to have some possibly ugly stripy socks for my own amusement, which I'm not mad about. So yeah, those are my kind of whips that I've been working on at the moment. And before I go, there was a few other things I was going to show you. Some yarny things I have acquired recently, which might be fun. So, like I was saying with the No Frills Sweater, this is from the Wooly Knits cones. And so I got one cone of the merino, which is what I used to make this. But while I was there, I picked up a couple of other little things as well. So let me reach into my yarny stash here. So I've got these two. These are also from Wooly Knit, but these are their British wool cones as opposed to the merino cones. They were both 500 grams fingering weight, which I will probably use to hold double and make more jumpers with. Not quite sure. I have been wanting to do maybe a colourwork sweater. I haven't done very much colourwork, so thought that might be fun to try. And this, I've already tried using just a little bit of that for some repair work. While I was at home, my dad has some nice Icelandic colourwork mittens he picked up when he was visiting Iceland, and they're quite worn through. He had holes all over because he wears them all the time, and so I used some of this to repair. I just picked up stitches above and below the hole, knit a patch, sew it kind of down the edge. Worked remarkably well, so I was pleased with that. So this is the colour Charcoal of the British wool cone. It's a little darker than it's coming up on camera. I would say a true charcoal colour, which I like quite a lot. And this one is, what's this called? Light grey. It's a very slightly warm tinted grey, very slightly sort of orangey yellow base. I love grey. I really, really like both of these colours, in fact. So yeah, I'm thinking possibly a colourwork sweater with these guys. I think that might be fun. Pop this back. And then also Wooly Knit sells cones of sock yarn, and I'm physically incapable of seeing sock yarn without being like, maybe I need some more sock yarn. So I've got a couple of cones of that as well. Those are up. So this is their sock yarn. It comes in 200 gram cones. Again, this was super affordable. I think it was like $5 or $6 for a cone, so why not? This one is a sort of emerald green colour that I like, a sort of jungly green, and is called Bottle Green. And yeah, their sock yarn is, I think, 90% wool, 10% nylon, which is unusual for me. I'm more used to seeing sort of 75-25 or, 70-30 or 80-20. Never tried a 90-10 before, but give it a go. It doesn't feel, again, super soft. Feels alright. So I think I mostly wanted just some plain colours to use for heels, toes and cuffs, that sort of thing. So that's the bottle green. And this colour I really like a lot. This is called Indigo, but it's kind of more like almost like a denim blue. Is it cerulean? Is that a colour? Don't quote me on that, I'm not quite sure what colour cerulean actually is. But indigo to me I would think is more of like a purple colour, whereas this is more of a true blue. But I like this a lot. And so I was thinking actually maybe I will use this along with the two greys in a colourwork project of some kind. Haven't really decided about that, but I thought those were fun to have. And something else I should show you related to those is my yarn winder. I have wanted a yarn winder for ages because a lot of socks end up winding a lot of yarn by hand. I don't mind winding like 200 meters of worsted weight. Winding by hand is fine, but winding 400 meters of sock yarn is a little bit of a ball ache. Oh God, I've had a few balls of lace weight yarn. Having to wind 800 meters by hand is definitely less than ideal. So I know most of the yarn winders I've seen are these sort of little, small plastic ones. But I've also heard a lot of people complaining about how much they hate their little plastic ball winders. So I kind of wanted a nice wooden one, but I didn't know where to get one. Hadn't seen one for sale anywhere. I just sent a note to my mum saying, hey, she was like, what do you want for Christmas? And I was like, well, if you could find a wooden ball yarn, that would be great. And parents came through. This was my Christmas gift for my parents, which is very kind of them and much appreciated. And so, it's pretty simple. I assume you know how a ball winder works, but you feed the yarn in here. You kind of clip it through these little notches here, and there's a hole here, a little sort of piece so you can clamp it to the table. And then you just do that. It winds up your yarn for you. So this was really useful for working with the combs, because you could just pull the yarn straight off the cone and wind it into cakes. That's how you end up with a cake shape. The only thing, I don't have a Swift, which is that, like umbrella type thing that you use for hanks of yarn. So I've been doing some experimenting. I think maybe a couple of cans of beans on the floor with the hank of yarn around them, feeding up into this and caking up that way. Gonna try that out, see how that works. But on the whole, yes, this is made my life easier. It's also just quite a nice object. I like sort of technical engineering type things, and this is very pleasing. The only thing to note, like when I got this, there were a few bits where the wood was there was some sort of sharp edges, and the yarn was catching on bits of the wood, so I just took some sandpaper to it and sanded off any of the sharp edges. In some ways it's a shame because this is sealed and varnished, and obviously when you sand it you take off a bit of the varnish, but so yeah, it looks a little bit scruffed now, but that really helped, and that smoothed everything out, and so now the yarn doesn't catch when you use it. But yeah, yarn winder, quite a lot of fun, enjoying that. And then there's just one more thing I have to show you, which I was really delighted by. So this was a gift from a friend, and this is the Keats Garn Christmas sock set, which is delightful. So Keats Garn is a local dyer from here in Berlin. I think she's a lady, not sure what her name is, but yes, she makes these beautiful yarns, and this sock set is, I don't know if you can see, but it's glittery. The main hank is 100 grams of 75% merino, 20% nylon, 5% stellina, and it's all these like delightfully different colours, and it sparkles. What's not to like? And then there's a little mini, which is 20 grams of 80% merino, 20% nylon, and that's this lovely sort of tonal green shade. And so I'd seen this set from Wollen, who are my local yarn shop. They had sent around an email that included this sock set, and I'd seen it and been like, ooh, it's nice. But like, no, I don't, no justification for buying more sock yarn, but it's really nice. And then a couple of weeks later, a friend of mine who is just learning to knit, and he had visited Wollen, gave this to me as a gift. He was just like, I saw this and thought you might like it. You are correct, my friend. So love this. Can't wait to start using this. And in fact, my friend suggested he might quite like some socks made from this also. So the fun thing is, he and I have the same size feet, and I know I can make a pair of socks with 50 grams of main colour and 20 grams of contrast for heels, toes and cuffs. And so I thought if I use 20 grams of, in fact, perhaps the Wooly Knit, then I would have enough to make 2 pairs of socks from this set. And so I think I might make us matching friendship socks from this set. I just think the idea of like matching socks with your buddy is quite cute. And I might even do it 4 at a time, just for fun. I did 6 at a time socks last year. That was fun. So yeah, I think I'm going to do some 4 at a time socks out of this, and I cannot wait to use this. It feels really plush and really nice. It's multicoloured, it's sparkly. What is not to like? So yeah, this is the Keats Gone Wollen Christmas sock set, and I think this is going to be really fun. So, okay, I think that was everything I wanted to share with you today. But yes, I hope you are doing well. I hope you are having fun with your knitting, wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in. It's been nice hanging out with you all. Have a good rest of the day. Have a nice cup of tea. Put your feet up. Do some knitting. And I will catch you again soon. All right. Bye.